greatest show on earth.
Welcome back to the Culture Convo, guys.
Hey, you're finally getting it down.
I am getting it down. Yeah, it's it rolls off your tongue. It's phonetically fun. You know, Culture Convo. I am your host, co-host, Chris Bauer, along with my buddy Tim Hyde. Tim,
what up?
What have you been doing?
I'm just recovering from a little cold that I got at a previous show.
Little summer cold.
I never get sick in summer, so it's really unusual for me. I get sick a lot, but not during the summertime. Typically, it's the only time you're gonna get a free pass, and I did not get a free pass this year. It beat me
You
up.
play video games when you're sick?
No, I can't. I'm a baby when I'm sick.
Oh, really? You just sleep?
Oh, dude, I'm a baby.
Yeah.
I don't do anything. I sit around and
just watch stuff.
Sleep. Yeah, I've binged a lot of things. I caught up, so
there you go.
That's good. But other than that, yeah, I'm a baby, man. I just sleep all day. What about you? Where are you right now, my friend?
Cincinnati,
Ohio. As opposed to Cincinnati in any other state. Is there another Cincinnati?
I don't. You know what? I don't think there is. There's a Greenville. Greenville, where you live, is
there's 25.
There's 31.
There
is. There's 31.
Greenville, South Carolina, not North Carolina, because Greenville, North Carolina is not fun.
No, but Greenville is. It's actually what's funny is Springfield, where the Simpsons live. The reason it's named Springfield is because it's the most. It was Matt Groening thought it would be the most commonly used town name, but it's actually Greenville in America. 31 cities in America are named Greenville. Fun fact for me to you.
So I'm going to give you a fun fact on our little telephone here.
Okay.
There are 6 places in the United States that have Cincinnati in their states.
There is more than one Cincinnati. I'll be darned. I've not.
So
I don't think I've visited more than
California. One. So someone really stretched on that one.
Cincinnati,
Iowa, Missouri,
California.
Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio.
Kentucky's got a Cincinnati. Well, okay, is it right across the river from
I think they're
Cincinnati, Ohio?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, because I know Florence, Kentucky is the city directly across the river from Cincinnati, but my guess is part of Cincinnati is also right across the river.
Yeah, so according to our lovely Wikipedia, which is always correct.
It's never wrong.
Metro Cincinnati spans across southern Ohio, southern eastern Indiana, and northern Kentucky.
Oh, so it touches the 3 states then.
Wow.
So 3 of the 6.
80 square miles.
Oh, wow. Really?
The Queen City, baby.
I did not know this was that big. Wow.
I did not know it was the Queen City. Did you?
No, I thought that was in North Carolina.
I thought that was, is that Charlotte?
Charlotte City? I thought Charlotte was the Queen City.
Come on. You can't go around stealing that shit.
I think that's going to lead to another rabbit hole of how many Queen cities are there in America? As we 81. Everywhere is called the Queen City. It's probably just as common as a Martin Luther King Boulevard.
City. West Hollywood probably up there. But
well, yeah,
different reasons.
We're gonna cut that.
Nope. I love me some WoHo.
Well, what were we saying? Oh yeah, our topic today.
Oh yeah,
is going to be searching for cons. So we are actually talking about this. This kind of came up because we get asked a lot, being in the business for a while, which we're pretty tight-lipped about it. Then we started a podcast and realized we can't be. So we have noticed there's been
anymore, unfortunately.
Right. We've noticed there's been a influx of new vendors since COVID. We call them the AC vendors, which is after COVID. We're BC vendors.
Before
you
COVID.
can figure out what that means.
I'm going to tell you. Before COVID.
Yeah, it's before COVID. So we're the BCs. You guys are the ACs. There's nothing wrong with that. My point is
OGBCs. Put that on a shirt.
Okay, if we just keep adding more initials, it's not going to make any sense anymore.
People will get it. We have a very smart group of followers here.
Yeah. Either way, we've gotten approached by several. First off, what kind of brought this up was there's a way to approach a vendor to ask about shows, and there's a way not to do it.
Yes.
And if you're new, a lot of times you'll end up doing it the wrong way accidentally because you don't know. But
Correct.
as you've no doubt already discovered, if you are new to this and you've been looking for shows, you've already discovered the first thing that we all know. No one's put all this on one website.
No.
I don't know why. I wish to God someone would take the time to do it. They'd probably get very rich because I would pay upwards of $500 a year for membership to one website that had every con on it and a portal, a vendor portal that you could literally apply for every con right through that website. Oh my God, don't even get me started. We've talked about it for years.
You think there
But
could be
nobody's
like
done
an AI situation where someone could fill in that stuff for you?
I'm not saying that that's not
No.
possible. It seems like that's very likely and very possible now, but hopefully it's coming. Either
Yeah,
way, it's way above my pay grade intellectually, so I don't deal with it. But as you guys have no doubt discovered, you have to search and find different websites and look for shows, and you'll find a website with all these shows, and then you'll find another website and they got a whole bunch of different shows on it that the other website didn't have. And you'll go on and on and on that way. And then you'll look at these shows, and then all of a sudden you've made the schedule, and there's 8 shows on this weekend. And you're like, okay, I've never heard of any of these. Which one's the one to apply for? Which is the good one? These are vendor questions we all ask. We all do it.
So what's the first thing you look for? So on that weekend with, let's say, 5 shows, you've never done any of them.
Well, hold on. Let me make my overall point of why newer vendors tend to take this shortcut. And that's because what I just described takes a lot of time. And so obviously, if you see a vendor that's obviously been already doing this for many years, they seem to be at a lot of different shows. What's the first thing you do? You want to go up and be like, hey, what shows are you going to be at the rest of the year? Okay. There's nothing wrong with that question on paper. But what that question does is, what I hear is, oh, I don't want to look for shows myself. I want to just copy down whatever your work doing. All the work you put into it, I want to skip that. And I want you just to tell me what shows to go to.
Right.
Now, if you don't sell artwork like I do, I'll give you a pass a lot of times, not always. But, if you're selling the exact same thing I do and you're basically wanting me to give you a free pass on making more competition for myself at the show, you're about to get sent to some real shit shows. Just going to be honest with you.
Yeah, because we don't have a list for one. We'll send you to a Cincinnati, Iowa show.
Don't you? You know what? Cincinnati. That's where I'm at right now.
Cincinnati, Iowa, baby.
Cincinnati, Iowa. Right. Yeah, the Cincinnati you don't want to be at. But there's also nothing wrong with going up, introducing yourself as a new vendor to an old vendor, as an AC to a BC. I mean, listen, this is a daunting subject. I don't always know what shows to pick. Do you have any recommendations? Most vendors, unless they're just total jerks, most of them aren't. They're going to talk to you. They're going to give you some tips. They're going to give you some shows. And we just thought, why not? We'll go ahead. We're not going to give you a bunch of shows to go do, but we're going to give you some tips on how to find them yourself from some OG BCs like Tim and I. So this is what this show is going to be.
As a full disclaimer, the combination of Chris and I's list, there's not a stone unturned when it comes to shows. You combine us all, we'd have 15 or 30 shows.
And not just stones.
Period.
There won't be a turd unturned either, because we've found many of those as well.
Lots of stinkers. Lots of stinkers.
Of them. Oh boy. So I guess the first thing you do, obviously, is websites. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll talk about the websites that we routinely use. I'll put a few of them at the bottom of the screen. We'll throw them in the show notes as well.
Link you to them below. Yeah. So you guys can.
You've probably already found these. They're on Google, because you no doubt went right to Google and you put in Comic Cons, comic conventions, whatever you did, anime cons. Obviously, fancons.com came up right away.
I think that's the best one. If you're
it is the best one. That's one of the best ones, and it's subsidiary. They also own animecons.com.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do both great lists. They keep them very current. They're very good.
The only negative
I
I
use
have
them a
with
lot.
them, and I think this is a reason why they're never filled out entirely like how you say they are, is
Yeah.
as a promoter, we actually have to apply to be on that website and fill
Oh,
out a
really?
form with all that, which
Okay.
is good because it means it's giving you real information and it's not
Sure.
BS. But a casual fan, they have to like suggest a show, and then the person on the website has to go look for it and
I
then fill out
gotcha.
all this for. And like, I don't think they really want to do that for 500, 1,000
Right.
shows a
So
year.
some things don't
Um,
get put on there
but
because of
there's some
that.
big shows on there that I'm like, I'm doing that this weekend. How is it not on that
How is
list?
it not on there? Right.
How is it
Yeah.
not? I mean, we make
I've
sure we put
definitely
our
thought
shows on
that
there
several
because it's
times.
free advertising for us. So there's no
Sure.
reason not to be. It takes half an hour to
100%.
fill it out, but you know, it is
Yeah.
what it is. I think that's the only real negative about the website. Everything on that. And I will say this, when you guys are on it, do not click on calendar, click on schedule.
Right. Schedule.
Calendar will
Yes.
give you literally a calendar, and it's
Yeah.
just going to be, you're going to click on like this weekend, it's going to be literally just lines of stuff.
Which they'll figure that out.
Schedule is all just nice and easy and set up
It
by the
is.
date
It's
and the
very
type of
nice.
show and everything. It's nice. And it links out
What's
to
your
the
second
website,
favorite
which is
site?
great.
Tembo.
Anime cons,
Anime Gods.
their
Besides those
spin-off
two,
site.
those two are basically the same site. But yeah, what's your second favorite? I've got my second favorite.
Upcoming cons, I
I
think
was just
is,
gonna say, yeah,
yeah,
upcoming
I think
Comic
that's it.
Cons is a great list.
Yeah.
I use them a lot as well. They're almost always my number two after I go to the fan cons and anime cons. Convention scene, that's another one.
They've
They
really
don't
died
have
off though.
as update. Yeah, they're a lot of times they're a little bit more dated, but I have definitely found a few on there that aren't on the other ones, but they're always
And
good to check.
that's
Um,
the thing that mixes that the finding of these small shows is where sometimes
yeah,
you can fill in your schedule and do a small little 1 day show that's only 2 hours away from you instead of
sure.
going across the country to go make the same amount of money.
Keep those
You know,
cheap
you'll sell
expenses.
less, but if you're
Keep your
making way
profits
less
high.
expenses,
100%. I've also got official hero hype, which is not one I use very often, but if I'm really deep diving on a certain weekend I can't seem to find a lot of options on, I'll definitely click on it just to see what they have on there. um, then another one I do really like is Pop Cult HQ. That is one they do have a lot of shows on there that aren't on the other lists. I do
is it
like that one
bigger
a
or
lot.
smaller? Is it more like a
A lot of
global
times they're
base?
smaller. A
Okay.
lot of times they're smaller,
Yeah.
and I found some real little gems on that list. And then the Comic Convention list is the last site that I use, and that's also a very good one.
Okay.
Well, like I said, we'll put all those down there. Now, of course, once you find shows, I myself am old school. Tim is a digital man, like most people are. I
Yes.
like to write my list out. I don't know. It helps me remember shows if I can
This is
write
where
my
I put mine
calendar out.
in right here on a note,
Exactly.
simple notes, and then
I
add
like
it
to
to a
write my
schedule after.
calendar out and write the shows down on each weekend, and it just helps me recall them. Just I guess, the rote memorization of writing it out. But either way, how do you know when you have, say, you have the weekend of February 3rd and 4th, and there's 6 options? You've never heard of any of them, but you wrote them out because that's what's going on nationwide.
Yeah.
2 of them are within 3 hours distance from you. So now you're like, okay, those are the 2 I want to focus on the most, obviously. So what I do right away, hit their social medias. I'm sure Tim will attest to this. Right away, I want to know how many people follow their Facebook page. That's the most no-brainer thing ever. I want to see how active their Facebook page is or their Instagram is. If they've got, what I always look for, rule of thumb, if a page has more than 5,000 likes and it has decent interactions, more than 10 posts a month, that's probably a pretty decent show. It's at least got some, I don't know, some action, some life to it. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it has a lot of times it comes through. What's your input on that, Tim?
Yeah, and one thing to also look at that is look at the engagement that the actual posts are making, because a lot of
Well,
them
that's
will
true.
just post shit to post shit, and
Yeah,
they'll
or
have
like
nothing to do with
forwards, or
anything. And but like when you
yeah,
see them announce a guest, is there excitement? Read the comments; they're there, they're
right,
public, they're not private. You could go,
sure,
and that's the one thing you guys that a lot of people tend to forget is social
yeah,
media is free. It's free.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
is such a huge asset to have. that you could go on Facebook and find shows forever, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll transition into the next asset of search for Facebook is
Yeah.
put events
Yeah.
on Facebook page and search
I
Comic
use
Cons,
that all
anime
the
cons,
time.
and
I
that's
have
where I
found
think
so many little events that
local.
way.
Yes, the small
Little local
filler
cons.
shows, guys. You don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
doing a 50,000 person show every weekend to be making good money.
Yep.
Everyone can do a 1 day, 2 day show that's an hour and a half away from their house for
Mm-hmm.
$100 table, booth,
Yeah.
whatever, and sometimes make more profit than some of these big shows. I know it's
I
crazy
use
to say,
that.
but
I use that the most when I'm on like when I go out west and I do like a month-long run. I'll go out because I have like two main shows that I'm going out for. And then I'll have like a week in between each one or something. And
yeah,
I need something that will keep me out west, but keep me in money. There might not be a big show. So I'll use those events on Facebook, or I'll look up these little websites and look for those smaller shows
right.
that have that decent kind of following that I've not heard of. And I'll look them up. The next thing I do when I'm looking that up is I head to YouTube, I type that in, and I look for crowd size.
Yes,
Every con that's ever happened, someone took a video at.
yes.
Period.
There's always someone wants to have a
Period.
YouTube channel. Oh,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
someone walked around that vendor floor with that camera going during the show. It is a guarantee every single time.
Yep.
Unless it's a new show,
YouTube
obviously,
is
that hasn't
phenomenal.
happened yet. Yeah, it is. It's a
Correct.
great tool. And I look for that crowd size. And you can tell if you've been a vendor, if you've been in a show a few times, you know what crowd looks like. You
Yes.
know when a crowd is big enough to buy.
Yes.
That few people at each booth and all the empty floor in between, that's red flag central. You already know that's something to avoid, especially if it's Saturday afternoon at 2:00 and you can
Yes.
see
And
all the
it's
way down an
empty.
aisle because it's no bodies. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a good a sign. So use YouTube when you're looking for shows, when you're especially if it's a show you've never heard of.
What do you search for when you do that?
When
Typically.
I just literally type in the show, and I
Okay.
don't type a year in because I want to see all the years that come up on YouTube. I want to see any videos, and I'll go through each video and I just scrub through them. I look for any type of crowd. Ones that get stuck in panels, I get right out of that. I'm looking for walking around.
Walk through videos.
Yeah,
Are the
walk
best. Period.
through, and trust me, you will find one.
Yeah.
Any show that's been around for more than a year, people have filmed it and they've put it on YouTube. It's
Correct.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then that lets you know that informs you, that shows you when people know about a show and they're coming to that show. Again, it's not a guarantee they're going to come that next year that you're going to be there, but it lets you know they've been there before and they could come again. But so that's kind of what I do, and I'm sure what you do when you're searching for shows. The other main thing, obviously, and it goes back to what started this conversation, was you can talk to vendors, meet vendors,
Yes.
make friends with vendors. It's not just about making friends so they can tell you about shows. This is our livelihood. This is our business. We see each other every week at different shows. Most of us talk to each other. It doesn't always translate. I mean, there's a lot of people I don't talk to, but there's a ton of people I do talk to and I'm cordial with. And any one of those people can stop me and strike up a conversation about shows that we've been to in the last few months or shows that are coming up. Hey, man, what do you have in September? I'm struggling to find anything for the last 2 weeks of September. That's such a common conversation with vendors that know each other. So get to know your fellow vendors if you're new.
And let me give you everyone a tip on how to ask how somebody did at a show without asking how they did at a show.
Yeah, how much money did you make is the wrong way.
Let's do a little role play, Chris. So I'll be a noob, and you could be the veteran. Okay,
give me an AC, and I'll be a BC.
I will be an AC. Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here.
Wow.
Yeah.
He has no respect for you ACs.
Okay, so I'm coming up to your booth. I was across from you at ABC convention.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And so I see you across, and you're killing it the whole weekend. You're doing well, and I say, okay, they obviously know what they're doing. They're experienced. We chit chat during the weekend. At the end of the show, you're packing up. I'm packing up, and I say, hey, so how was the show for you overall?
Not too bad, actually. Yeah, I was a little down from last year, but actually, Sunday went pretty good. So I'm not hating it.
Okay. Um, Out of curiosity, have you ever done BCF show? Have you ever done that show?
Um, I've never done it personally, but I know my buddy did it last year, and he said it went really well.
Okay. What about VVF Festival? Have you done that one? The one
Yes,
that's in
I have
next
done
week?
that one. I've done that for the last 3 years. Yes.
If you would compare it to this show, because I think they're very similar crowd wise from I remember last, from I looked, found out what people have been telling me, it's similar. Is it similar to this show in sales wise? What can I expect to do compared to like this weekend compared to next weekend? What should I expect? Is it less? Is it more? What do you think?
I would say it has a similar crowd. We don't really sell the same thing, so I don't exactly know what is good sales for you, but I would say the sales, the crowd, if they're spending, it should be in that right realm. The crowd is similar, so if they're all spending like they were here, then yeah, it should have similar sales.
Okay. Well, what are some like I'm pretty happy with my weekend this weekend. Is there any other shows that are kind of comparable to the vibe and the crowd of something that you have like this?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this crowd, like at this one, I mean, if you've ever looked up, shows like Motor City Comic Con or, another shows like Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, shows like that, they have a similar vibe. If I'm sure you've heard of those, or if I don't know if you've gotten into those, definitely apply to those. But you can also,
Okay.
look up different equivalent ones at some of the other websites as well.
What website's your favorite?
Fan cons. It seems like we probably
Oh,
work for fan cons. We really
cool.
don't.
No,
We
they do
should
not
get them to
sponsor.
sponsor.
I know, right?
They do not
But
sponsor
yeah, so
us.
that was a little like obviously a dumb little role play, spontaneous thing, whatever, back and forth. But that's kind
But
of
we didn't give any
how you
numbers.
want
But
that to be.
yeah, that's
Yep.
usually how it goes. But you'll notice when vendors know
Here,
each
we'll do
other,
another role play.
if you've ever overheard conversations,
Here.
they'll be tossing numbers out. They'll be like, "Yeah, I cleared 20."
Yeah.
And you're like, "What? 20 grand? Like what?
Yeah.
What are they selling over there?" But I've listened to numbers like from people, and I'm like, "What?" And then you'll look at their product. Well, their cost for that product might be astronomical compared to your cost. I know that happens a lot with
their cost may
artists.
have been they made 16 grand in cost, but 20 grand in sales.
100%, or vice versa. Yeah, artists tend to. We both sell art, so our costs tend to be a lot less per item, cost wise, production cost wise, as opposed to like a sword dealer. But a sword dealer might be like, "Oh, I made 80 grand this weekend." You're like, "Oh my god!" But they might have had $69,000 in production or inventory cost plus the trip, which they might have cleared 3 or 4 grand in profit, which that's a lot of work to only do that. Comparatively, if you're a sword dealer, I don't know. I'm not using an exact scenario. I'm just pointing out that sometimes you'll hear people throw numbers out that are astronomical, but it really just depends on what they're selling. Who knows? Unless you know the background of the stock.
I wouldn't listen. Don't listen to these people. Don't listen to these people until you know them close. Because people that are dropping numbers that barely know you, they're either flexing or they're just being a douchebag. And
some people will do that to new people too, to run them off, or to make them feel less than, like you're not doing it right. I know that because it's fun to do. I'm just kidding. But no, it's a very true thing. I've definitely seen it happen. Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Agreed. 100%. What's another thing that you can do when you're looking at a new show that's come up and you don't know what it is? What's one other thing you kind of look for besides just the crowd size from previous shows? Or what are things you can look for?
Well, that we are actually, okay, so we're kind of skirting around it, but if we're getting into it, so what happens when you come up with a brand new show? So this is a first year show. Nobody's ever been to it because they've never done it before. So now everybody's on that even playing field. Well, that's when you start looking at the promoter. What's the promoter done? What kind of shows has the promoter done before this? Is it a first time, or is this a show that has he done several shows before, he or she? Have they done several shows before that you can go look what kind of numbers have they done at those shows before that they've done? That's where you kind of delve in and do your research on the actual promoter of the show. And that's great. I like that because it starts getting you to know the players in the game. Yeah. You'll be so surprised when you get into this to know how few promoters are out there. It's actually a really small community, and you get to know the promoters that way when you start researching them. So it really starts helping you that way to do that. You should do that anyway when you're looking at shows, but when you're looking at new shows to do, it kind of forces you to look at the promoter, because it's about the only way to make a decision on whether you're going to try a new show. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
yeah, I mean, for me, on that note, to transition is I think the guest list is important, because if it's a local 1-day show, they're not going to have a guest list.
They're not bringing a guest list,
unless you have a local person, guys, or the 8th zombie in The Walking Dead on season 8, whatever.
Yeah,
which is fine, because people locally, typically at a small show, get more excited over small stuff. It's just it is what it is.
It is.
If they want to pay the big bucks, they'll go to a MegaCon, they'll go to New York, whatever. But those 100%. Little tiny town shows can still be very profitable, very successful.
Mm-hmm.
But they're impressed by a lot less, which is good.
Yeah. And I actually picked, this is a good example. I picked a new show to try next month based on the guest list.
Okay.
I didn't even, it's really 100% guest list poll. And it's because it's in a city I've never done a con in.
Oh,
so it's
that's
just one of those
like
things.
You.
I know. Yeah. I'm taking a real roll of the dice.
We actually are going to have to do a real review on that one, since it is
I would like to
for you.
I'd like to.
That'd be great.
It's a wild card, so we'll see what happens with it. But it's really one of the first times I've done that. Where it was kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to pull the trigger. We'll see what happens. So could be a huge mistake.
Pulling triggers.
I'll be like,
we'll
cowardly
see.
Lion cry. It was a mistake. Like, could have seen that one coming. Yeah. So, or it could be great. Who knows? We're all gamblers at the end of the day.
It's a fun industry.
We love pulling that slot machine arm every weekend.
Yeah, we are addicted. Yeah. It does become addiction. And a lot of you...
It totally is.
A lot of you ACs will find out that after that a lot of it's worth it, a lot of it's not. But if you don't do it, then you got to step on the grass to play ball.
Yeah, it's like it's the lottery ticket. You can't win the Powerball if you don't buy the ticket.
Yeah, and the problem is too, a lot of these first time shows end up being really, really good, and then you hear about it, and then you go and do it the second year.
The second year curse, yeah.
And the second year curse
is the drop off. So you have the good first year. And then you're excited that the second year is going to be even better. And then it just tanks the second year. That's the second year curse. You'll hear people talk about it. Silicon Valley Comic-Con did that to me. That was how I learned it the hard way. Silicon Valley Comic-Con, which is no longer around. But Silicon Valley Comic-Con, that was Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, started the show. And it had a lot of buzz around it, man. Guest list was stellar. This was a big show, and they were charging a lot for booths. Everybody took a big gamble on that show. And
how much was it for a first-time booth?
It was a $1,500 booth.
Woo!
And this was 2016. So 2016, that was not a... Yeah. Oh, it was... It was a big investment. But it was like, man, it had so much, like, push behind it. And man, every vendor there murdered. Dude, I'm telling you, that show was a banger.
I remember you called everyone was
grinning ear to ear. It was my biggest show to date up to that point. Like, it was just a huge show. And everyone couldn't wait till next year. Next year is going to be even bigger and better. I think I did 45 to 50% of what I did the first year, the second year.
Probably with higher cost too.
Oh, and I had double boothed the second year, of course.
Yeah, why not?
You do, because of course you get double space. You're going to kill it. Oh yeah. So it was. I learned that lesson the hard way. That was Second year curse is a real thing. I've watched it happen, and I've been a part of it for several other shows, but now I'm a bit more wary about it on the second year curse. I definitely try to scale back.
What do you think is that? What are some of a few, at least, of the things as to why it becomes a second year curse? Because obviously, the first year successful. What do you think reasons
I almost guarantee you, I know what most of it is.
Give me some.
I think about it this way: a first year show, usually one that has a lot of planning going into it, is planned for several years. Like a lot of time, a lot of energy. So you're planning, you're advertising, you're putting, let's say, at least 2 years puts into this big first year show, right? You're exhausted. So the first few months after that show, you're just dead as a promoter, as the team, whatever's behind it.
Yep.
So that second year has 8 months behind it. And you're going to go bigger and better, which really all that means is more expense. Cool. So it's all that expense means less money for advertising, because that's the thing that gets cut every single time. And I think that's what happens on a second year. I think there's less advertising that goes into it.
We already built up a following. We don't need advertising.
100%. Anyway. And that's what they tell themselves. They're like, everyone's going to come back that came the first year, so we don't need as much advertising. I'm sure everybody's already coming back, so we'll just advertise a little bit for the new people. But it's always the major mistake. And that's what happens. And they don't get half the crowd, or whatever happens. And it always ends up being less. And it's just because not as much time and energy got put into that second year. That's what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to call myself out on that one. I actually became kind of a victim of that with my Anime Town Greenville show, the September show that we did. January one went phenomenally. September one.
Well, yeah, because you had so much less time,
but it was not good for most people.
Sure.
We expanded the show floor, not as much as people say. If you're on these little Discord groups and you're listening, I can show you the show floors before and after.
Discord groups. I like that there's multiple.
I saw all of these screenshots, by the way. I have friends, so I saw stuff.
Oh, no. Pitchfork.
No.
Then the Birdie Torch Cruise.
They were out together. I was the trending shit on topic for a couple of days. Yeah. Thank God someone else did something really dumb and
sure.
It was
that news cycle is going to change. It always does. It will.
But
it's got to let it play itself.
We went from January to September in the same year because of just issues that we had with the convention center, and it didn't
just less time.
And the time factor and just everything came together poorly. Everything that could have gone wrong almost did. And so it was just one of those things that can be, but that was like a second year curse because it was the second show. It was the same year. It was, 8 months later, but it just
second year curse still applies. And I think that's all it is. I think it's just, a lot of times Nashville Comic-Con, another perfect example. Nashville Comic-Con got announced in 2019. They had started working on that in 2018. Okay. 2020, what happens? Pandemic. It doesn't come out till 2022. They worked and advertised for that show for 3 years.
Correct.
What happened at that show? It was a banger. Dude, that show was so good. It was packed. You couldn't put more people into that show. And then 2023, you were at that show. What happened at that show, Tim? Second year curse. Holy crap.
It wasn't bad, but if it was the first year and the other one was the second year, then
I saw pictures of the crowd.
Show is growing and success, but it was not. No. It was
like,
it was
what happened to the first year?
Yeah,
the crowd was not
we
there.
We love Mike. We do his shows.
I'm not dissing the show by any stretch of imagination.
It's a weird second year curse.
The second year curse happens because it's not like a devious thing or a malicious thing done by the promoter. It isn't,
for the most part. In this case, it's definitely not.
Well, what I'm saying is
there are some greedy promoters that will triple their show floor, quadruple.
You make assumptions based on you're like, okay, this is okay, this is happening. They love this, so all I got to do is work on this part. That's going to go great, and you'll think this part's okay, and then that's the part you should have worked more on. And it sometimes it just doesn't work that way. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's what really the second year's curse comes in. I really do.
Very, very well. I mean, you have to go off the data you're given, and when it's all good
Sure.
data, you don't have bad data to go
Exactly.
off of.
Then you don't know what to fix, and you're like, well, if this is all good, I'll just keep it the same. And if there's no bad data, and exactly, what are you going to change?
Yeah.
And that's
I mean, for the Anime Town Greenville show that we had, everybody had talked about the expanding of the show floor and everything, but I still had over 60 people on our wait list. I could have gone way bigger, and we cut back on it. We only ended up adding about 20% to the show floor. It just felt way worse. The convention itself was so much bigger, and it was really crammed and tight. Where this one we had, instead of 8-foot aisles, we had 12-foot aisles and 10-foot aisles. So everything felt a lot bigger, and we had about half the crowd show up. And so that's a bad combination.
Yeah. It is. It's just like a perfect storm of things you don't want to happen, but they do anyway. And you've done everything you can to stop it from happening, but it happens anyway. And it is what it is. And you have to weather that storm. It sucks. It is what it is.
Sucks, trust me.
I'll bet, dude. I can't imagine.
Year 3 is going to be awesome, though. I already have a guest list almost done. It's looking really good. So I'm excited. We're going back to January in the small hall for anybody's listening to me. We're back in the small hall. So
give it another shot.
We're doing the old,
and then I wonder if there is something to be said about like a third year. I wonder if there is something to be said about a third year boom because, a lot of people will learn from a second year curse, and then they'll stop. They'll give that third year off, and then third year will go well. I don't know. I wonder if it goes back and forth like that. I kind of quit paying attention to it after that second year curse because that's the only thing. Yeah, it probably does.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't survive that second year curse. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck when it comes to paying the bills on the con side. I
also think that after that third year, as I'm sure you're already seeing with yours, there's certain shows that just know the show's coming, so that it gets in that built-in audience, and they just show up, and then you can start planning on having a certain level.
The amount of walk-ups that we had, it was almost the exact same crowd as last year, and we spent half is on ads because it was just we saw the sales were coming from more organic stuff, and and we knew a lot of people were walking up. We'd heard the buzz. We had a lot of boots on the ground and doing that kind of stuff, and so that was definitely So basically, getting it back on track. This was all part of the subject, but basically, this is what you do when you're looking for shows. You're looking for that kind of data. You're looking for any kind of indication that this could be the right decision, because we live in a world now where there are 6 to 10 options every weekend now, year round. Correct.
There's options. That didn't used to be that way when we first started. It was not that way. It is that way now, and you can work year round doing this now. We all do, and some people still choose not to, and there's nothing wrong with that. Take your winters off. Take whatever time you want off. You'll probably be in better health than I am, but either way.
And with how many cons there are out there, people, if you keep doing bad at a certain promoter shows or a certain city or I love Portland. Portland fucking sucks for me.
Sure.
I love Portland, Oregon. I would love to go back there 2 or 3 times a year, but I can't make money in that town. I can't.
I know, and there's
cons that I kill you at. And it's so weird, like I own Minneapolis. I don't know why.
Sure.
I kill it every show I do in Minneapolis.
There you
go.
For
whatever reason, I have no clue. And people will be like, oh, this show sucks. And I'm like, looking around like, oh, I did really well. And I'm like,
it's just certain cities will respond to your stuff more. Yeah, it's very true.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is a real thing. So pay attention to that. Yeah, if it's not always the show. Sometimes it's the people in the city. For some reason, they might not enjoy your stuff, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just how it is. It's just a taste thing. Unless you sell Funko Pops, then you can sell those anywhere you want.
Yes, you can.
Anywho, I think that's all we can impart with you, or impart to you. Did I use that correctly? Impart?
I don't know. I don't know either word, so we're good. I'm going to say that's the lovely BC to AC.
BC to AC. We should just start talking in these initials for everything we're saying.
People will get it. People will get it. That's the sad part.
Get it. We're gonna make it a thing. Stop making fetch a thing.
Yeah, you're so fetch. God, we're gonna get sued by Mean Girls now. Thank you.
I don't think Mean Girls can sue you. I don't think they will. Whoever owns them, though. Man. We're in the fan art business. What are we talking about? We're not gonna get sued.
Dude, let's not put that out there, please.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not.
I don't want them to come take my really cool new light. Yeah,
on air. If they can sue you for words,
$25.
Yeah, can I get my $25 back? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anything more to add there, Tim?
Thank you guys for all supporting. We do appreciate it, and check out the links that we have below with all the shows. And if there's other ones that we can talk about, send them our way, because you never know. We can never have too much support in the community when it comes to helping each other out. And we're all one big, not so happy family.
Tim's right. Thank you to all 8 of you for supporting our show. We really could not do this without you.
No, you pay our bills.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. On that note.
Well, we'll see you 8, now probably 7 now, next week. Bye.
Yes. Later.